Welcome to True and Unpolished. Through this podcast, our intention is to uplift, amuse, and inspire you to create more of a life you'll love. Let's get authentic, everybody. Hello, 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 everybody. It's Lydia. And before I tell you about the episode you're about to hear, I want to take a minute to mention that this episode is brought to you by Cusp Culture. Visit them online at cuspculture.com. I also want to say that we reference some ritual kits that our guest, Julie, Mayson, and Mary put together, and they are on Mary's Etsy shop. And in the episode, we tried to direct you to her Etsy shop, and we then went and tried to find it ourselves and realized that you have to actually go to Etsy.com, and then you actually search Create More by Mary Howe without any spaces. So Create More by Mary Howe without any spaces. That's how you get to those ritual kits. And now let me tell you about the interview you're about to hear. We talked to Julie Mayson about an ancient form of astrology. It is not the Western form of astrology that you are used to. It is an ancient Vedic astrology, and it has readings called Jyotish readings, and both Mary and I got a Jyotish reading by Julie Mayson, and we talk about it in this conversation here. I think that you are going to find this super duper interesting. Take a listen. So Julie Mayson, tell us your story.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
So I guess I first heard of Jyotish when I was in India at an ashram. I was there doing some yoga teacher training, and the founder, Anand, was talking about his first upcoming training for this. So with a little nudging from Mary, I signed up and did this training. And I am so glad I did. I mean, it's just been all inspiring. It's opened my eyes to a new way of looking at the spiritual world and our soul in a different way.
Yeah. So what would you say, who would you say would benefit, or why would someone look into doing is it Jyotish reading? Is that what you'd call it?
Yes, that's a Jyotish reading. We do is we look at the time and the place of birth and the date.
Yes.
And that gives us a reading, kind of like a blueprint of where the planets were when you took your first breath.
Yeah.
And the planets are like timekeepers. They don't really make things happen, but they can keep track of time. So they keep track of karma, past life that's brought into this life. And then they influence what could happen on a person's path.
Right. And okay, so this is full disclosure, everybody. Both Mary and I have had Julie give us a Jyotish reading. And I'll say that from my experience, Julie, when you gave me the reading, it was really helpful. I mean, first of all, it was eerily spot on, as, most things are, truth with a capital T. So I could feel the purposefulness of it. And when Mary told me about getting the Jyotish reading, I just knew that I wanted one, and I didn't know why, and I didn't know what it was for, and I didn't know why and I still don't know exactly why, but I know that I felt the intuitive nudge to have it happen.
Well, and it was like, I was just telling Lydia about it, like my experience, because that's what we do. This is what I'm up to. And I wanted to tell you about my friend Julie, and she's amazing, and she's doing this thing. And Lydia was like, okay, well, I need one of those.
I need one of those. That's right. And I didn't know why I needed it. Like, it wasn't, nothing Mary said made me think, oh, that's why I want it. I just intuitively. So I guess what I want to say is, if you're listening to this and you have, throughout our conversation, you have this nudge that says, I want one of these. I let go of why. Like I still have let go of the why. Um, and what I found from my reading is that it really just reaffirmed what that I'm doing what I'm meant to be doing. Because it kept saying the same thing over and over. And Julie told me that that's not, necessarily typical, that, sometimes that, the consistency in mine where it was like, this is happening over here. So this part of the reading and where the planets were says this, and then this other thing where the stars were. I mean, I'm botching this, Julie, like totally forgive me, but like this is Jyotish for dummies, everybody. But like the stars that were over here in this one, and I know nothing about astrology. That's the thing. I don't even, I've paid very little attention to it, although I can feel that, it makes total sense that the moon and the planets are being run by that same divine intelligence that creates an oak tree out of an acorn and beats my heart and all of those things. What say you, Mayor?
Why don't we ask Julie to tell us a little bit more about it, like the basics, like the simplified version of Jyotish.
I love that analogy of the acorn, because that's like what's inside an acorn gives it exactly what it needs to become that tree, right?
Right.
And we have that within us as well, but things can get in the way and block us participate in this as well.
Yeah, we're co-creators, sure.
Planets make this happen. It's not a magic wand, but it's and it's a path. It's a spiraling path. It's always moving. And that is the goal of it, is that, we are always growing and we are always moving, or either we're dead, so
yeah.
The goal is to keep it moving. So we look at what sign was rising on the horizon when we took that first breath. And that kind of tells a story about our maybe more of our body part, our personality.
Yeah.
And then we look at the placement of the moon, which tells us more about our mind, how our mind works. And then we look at the whole picture and the strengths of the planets and what houses they're in. They're laid out in 12 houses with the 12 zodiac signs.
Right.
And that tells the story of every part of your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Children, mother, father, finances.
Yeah. It was interesting because mine said, and Julie asked me, she's like, so you have 5 children? And I was like, no, I only have 2 children. And then I realized I had an ectopic pregnancy where my tube burst, and then I had 2 miscarriages. So I actually have been pregnant 5 times with 2 children. Mm-hmm. And so even at first glance, when I was like, well, no, that's not right. I definitely do not have 5 children unless I'm being a very neglectful mother to 3 of them. And then I realized, oh, no, that's right. And the other thing that really stood out to me is she said there was an event, around 5 or 6. It was like 5.7. And it looks like it had to do with your father and maybe health. And like, I cannot tell you like how like everything tingled, because I went back to the moment. I know exactly what she was talking about. It was very foundational. It definitely changed everything and really began a period of very difficult time. And that's what she told me. She said it began a period of a very difficult time and she told me the length of time, and it was spot on. And so I think there was only one thing in the reading that I couldn't kind of make sense of. And this was hours long. So there was so much information. So everything, and it kept, it said, my purpose was speaker, spiritual teacher, and each of the, when she did the mind and the body and like went around the different paths, they all were saying this same thing and really affirmed what I'm doing, and gave me that I mean, I knew that, but it's so amazing how the universe, and I think even as I'm saying this, now I know that one of my nudges to do this was about reaffirming my purpose, in particular right now, because I'm doing some other kind of therapy work. I've gone back to therapy, which I haven't done since my early 20s. And so it is a time. And actually, Mary, you were the one who said, because therapy's difficult. It's work, right? So I'm doing this
Right.
therapy. And Mary, one of the things that she reminded me, even in like moments of struggle during this therapy, she's like, you haven't lost your skill set. Like, just because you feel out of balance and out of whack right now because you're looking at these things, your skill set's still there. And actually, my skill set has been the thing that has grounded me. It's like, oh, yeah, I still do know how to do this. And so now I'm realizing that a big part of that was so that I could have this affirmation via Julie's mouth from the universe that, remember, you're on purpose and it's good to keep going.
Yeah, and that's like when we're doing a reading, we can see the reflection of the person in the chart, but that's always changing, like I said.
Yeah.
Because we're always evolving.
Yeah.
I have a question. Well, a book that I know Lydia likes this book too, and I like it. And the reason I like it is because it's based on like thousands of examples of people, but it's called The Secret Language of Birthdays. And they have a book called The Secret Language of Relationships, and they have another one. But the reason I like it is because it's not based in some woo-woo kind of thing, because I'm so woo-woo that I need, in order to like make myself feel legitimate, I feel like I need something that's based in fact. And I think a lot of people feel that way.
Yes.
Like, so to me, this really, and what you're doing reminds me of that, although it should be the reverse, because what language of birthdays is more recent.
Yeah.
Stuff, and you're just thousands of years old.
Right. And the secret language of birthdays, it uses a process called personology, and it does use, astrology as a component of it, but there's psychology, and it also has to do with the moment of your birth. And I have found it to be spot on for me. And it said the same thing that the Jyotish chart said, and it also said the same thing that the Enneagram said. And so I would really call Jyotish or Vedic astrology, and what I would call it is a form of science. Like, it feels like science to me.
It's also called the science of light.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's not to be used alone. Like, we use it as just to kind of get to know the person a little bit better, but then you have to do your own work. You go into your, maybe you need to support through meditation,
right,
or, through mantra, or it's a way of moving out of the doing and into the being. So it helps us just to kind of see where we need to slow down and move forward.
An example of that is Julie, when I had my reading, Julie gave me a prescription, and there was Julie could probably definitely do a better job of explaining this, but or clarifying. But what happened was, or what she told me was that I was within the next year, I would have conflicts. That's the simplified version. And so the prescription was a ring, and I don't know if it was the blue topaz or the emerald ring on my middle finger or pinky finger, but there were two prescriptions. One was a blue topaz, one was an emerald. And so this simple prescription, and this is one of the things that we were talking about last week, and how there are so many tools out there. And one of the things that I really am inspired to bring to this podcast is just kind of simplifying some of these concepts so that we can understand and find what path and tools work best. But Julie, can you say anything more about the prescriptions that go along with this?
Yeah, so we recommend gemstones to help support planets that might need supporting, or if they're in a certain house that needs a little bit more work. And also depending on the season that you're in, I'll call it season just to make it a little bit more Western, but it's dasha in Vedic astrology, but so that's a time period that the planet is kind of ruling your chart. And so we support that with the gemstones. And normally we would only, recommend one gemstone, but Mary, because you're more evolved and I knew you could handle it, I did recommend two.
Oh, wow.
And then we have, various upayas, which means like practices that we give. So it could be meditations, it could be kriyas or yoga practices, and it also could be mantras. And the mantras are really, again, to kind of help slow that mind down and help you to be more centered and present.
Yeah. And I would say that all of these tools are meant to put us in line with the natural intelligence of the universe. Like, instead of struggle and working hard and efforting, the tools are a way of putting us in alignment with this intelligence that runs the show. And you can call it whatever you want. I use the word divine intelligence a lot, but I recognize that it is synonymous with the intelligence that moves the planets in their orbits. It is synonymous with the word grace, which is the givingness of God that is available in every moment. And the Tao Te Ching, which is called the way, and finding, so these tools are all about, getting us to this place of beingness. And in that place of beingness, we are in alignment with life, and therefore allowing life to live us rather than us doing it. And it's never us doing it. I think that it's us always in co-creation with that divine intelligence, and getting us there. So I definitely appreciated my reading, and also know that there's even more that I'll get from it at like moments. Like, intuitively, I just knew that this was going to be something that every once in a while I would get an intuitive hit to go back to it and look at it. And it's really exciting too, because it also talks about, where the planets will be in my lifetime. And so what kind of future stuff. And I know, Julie, that you would caution against calling it predictive in any way, or like, it's not a crystal ball. It is not that. It is, kind of giving a path of what, there's this path, and we can be on many places within, a certain width of this path, but it is a path. And I really appreciate it. And is that a good way to say it, Julie, or do you have a better way?
No, I think that's good. The only thing I would add is that it is a way of it's a path of the Atman. It's the ego wants to be complacent and just stay where it is.
Yeah.
But the goal of this also is to kind of help raise that consciousness and, to that big S self, so that you can continue to evolve and live your life in the most, elegant manner.
Yeah, absolutely. Mayor, did you have something?
Less about the Jyotish in particular, but more about what I've witnessed as a friend, Julie being one of my peeps, is that she's done so much of her own inner work.
Yeah.
And she mentioned that she went to India before and she studied under the same teacher to become a yoga teacher.
Yeah.
She's done, countless kinds of trainings and that sort of thing while just living her life. So I think and the reason I was inspired to like push her in this direction is because I could see it kind of coming together. And I think that happens for all of us because, Lydia and I started something a very long time ago, almost 15 years ago now. And our lives went in different directions, completely different directions. We lost contact with each other for a while. And now in the past year, I see it coming together in my own life. And so 15 years ago, I was efforting a lot to make something happen that wasn't ready to happen. And now it seems to be happening.
Yeah, it's happening
in a much easier way.
Yes.
Julie, can you say anything about that for your own?
Yeah, well, I think once you start down that path, doors start to happen, synchronicities start to happen, just the doorways open to all kinds of things. And I think like in my spiritual direction training, I kept hearing more and more about as above, so below. And that kind of kept like triggering something in me too, to make me, well, what is all this astrology about, and how is the cosmos within me? And so, that kind of nudged me to go a little bit deeper in that level. And it's that circular path that we just keep going on and evolving.
And see what you're pointing to and what Mary pointed to and what I pointed to with this nudge, and we talk about intuition and nudges and this, and Julie felt that kind of nudge toward this. What is this astrology? The astrology out there, the one in here, like the Psalms. There's actually a Psalm that says the words are written on my heart. And I really love the metaphor that can be found in the Bible. That is the way in which I listen or view the Bible, is through metaphor, and I can just feel that, and I feel like we all have words that were written on our heart, and those intuitive nudges. Part of mine was, I got an intuitive nudge to have this Jyotish reading from Julie. And it is because there are words written on my heart that tool is going to help me to remember. It's going to help me to, get back in touch with. So, Julie, first of all, I know that you are instrumental in helping Mary put together her ritual kits that are in her Etsy shop that I am in love with. I have sent a ritual kit to people, like when they're in, like, especially people who are going through a change of some kind. I've really had this like intuitive nudge to send a ritual kit. And I've been given the gift of ritual through Mary, via Mary. And now I understand that you are a part of that gift because you two have been putting together some ritual kits. What's the latest one you guys just did?
Yeah, so the latest one is Connect. It's all about connection.
Connection. I love it. So connection ritual kits are in your Etsy shop. Mary, what's the...
Well, there's multiple elements. So my inspiration is to focus on the creative phases, and in summer, the summertime creative phase is a phase of verification. And so what we've done is kind of coupled my creative aspect, the art aspect, with what Julie's background is, which is understanding the chakras and other elements in like what we've been talking about. And so
so exciting. But I always forget how to get to your Etsy shop. Like, what do I do?
Well, if you search Create More by Mary Howe, then on Etsy, then it should pop up, but we can put a link in the post this week as well.
Yeah, let's put a link in the post, but also just in case, because sometimes people actually don't see the post because they are subscribers. Thank you, subscribers who just listen to us because we come up in your podcast feed. We love you. We love all of you, even the ones who listen to us because you see a post. But yeah, so for the subscribers, what they would do is go to they go to Etsy shop, right? Like Etsy shop.
Yeah, yes. Etsy. you find my Etsy shop by searching Create More by Mary Howe on Etsy. But I also have a link on my personal website, which is maryhowe.com.
Awesome. Maybe we can put one on the True and Unpolished too. So that's the ritual kits. Now, Julie, if somebody wants, like Mary and I did, felt inspired to have a Jyotish reading, which I already have to tell you that my husband does want one. So you'll be hearing from him. And if they want that, how do they get in touch with you, Julie?
They can go to my website. It's spiritualbliss.net. And I also have a link to the Etsy shop on there as well.
Awesome. So spiritualbliss.net, and we can put a link in the post this week too with that. Spiritualbliss.net. I love that. Yeah, so Julie, Mayson, thank you so much for being here. And I just want to tell everybody that we have been sponsored today. That True and Unpolished is brought to you today, sponsored by Cusp Culture. And you can find out all about Cusp Culture at cuspculture.com. Thank you for being here, and we'll see what happens next, everybody.